ladies and gentlemen. In relationships, we often find ourselves in an intricate dance between love and independence. It is a dynamic that can be difficult to comprehend, especially when we ask why a woman might leave a man who truly cares for her. The paradox lies in the subtle interplay of her desires, her need for care, for protection, for tenderness, and yet her desire for freedom, autonomy, and the space to grow as an individual. Love is not a static force. It is alive and it evolves. When we first come together with someone, there is often a shared sense of connection, of being cared for, and of mutual dependence. But as time moves on, so do the needs of the individual. For a woman, the initial care provided by a partner can be a source of comfort. But as she matures in the relationship and in herself, there comes a time when she must reclaim her own identity, her own autonomy. This is not a rejection of love or care, but a deep existential need for personal growth. For women, as much as they might cherish the care and protection offered by their partners, they also have an inherent drive to evolve, to become more than just someone's partner, to become themselves. It is here, in this delicate balance, that tension arises. The desire for independence becomes more urgent as the relationship progresses, and often what can feel like too much care, too much protection, can begin to feel like a subtle form of control, no matter how well-intentioned it may be. What once felt like nurturing now feels like restraint, and in that moment the woman may find herself at a crossroads. To live is to grow, to change. And sometimes this change requires a break from what we've known. A woman may leave not because she does not appreciate the care, the love, and the tenderness, but because in the space of that relationship she feels her own growth has been stifled. She may not have the freedom to explore the depths of her own self, to navigate the vast landscape of her own potential. The very thing that was once a source of security being cared for can now feel like a burden. It can feel as though her identity is swallowed up by the very love that once nurtured her. Expectations are another heavy layer in the equation. We live in a world that holds up certain ideals about what relationships should look like, how love should feel, how partners should behave. The weight of these expectations can be crushing. When one person is constantly giving, constantly sacrificing, it can create an unspoken pressure to always be the provider, the protector, the caretaker. This is not to say that love is not about care and sacrifice, but when those roles become rigid, when one person feels that their sole purpose is to take care of the other, it shifts the balance of the relationship. And no matter how deeply someone may love, the pressure of constant expectation can lead to feelings of resentment or dissatisfaction. The unspoken truth is that love, in its deepest form, can sometimes feel unfulfilling when it does not nourish the totality of a person. A woman may leave because, despite being cared for, she feels as though the love does not match her deeper desires or the person she is becoming. It is a complex realization, a recognition, that although love exists, it is not always the right fit for the growth that is needed at a particular stage in life. A woman who leaves a man who cares for her is not making a statement against love itself. She is simply acknowledging that love is not enough to sustain her on a deeper level. Love must evolve just as the people in it evolve. And it is in that space of evolution where the true understanding of love emerges, where we realize that sometimes letting go is the most loving thing we can do for both ourselves and for our partners. So, let us not view this act as one of rejection, but as an opportunity for both individuals to reflect, to grow, and to become more than they were. It is the complexity of love in all its forms that drives us to be better, to be more. And as we navigate these intricate dynamics, we must recognize that love is not about holding on to someone, but about allowing both individuals to flourish into who they are meant to be. Love and desire, two words we often use interchangeably, yet they carry depths that stretch beyond our understanding. We tend to think of love as a simple force, something pure and straightforward. But in truth, love is as complex as the human heart, constantly shifting, evolving and reconfiguring itself in the face of new experiences, growth and change. Desire, too, is layered. It isn't just about wanting someone or something, but about a profound, often unconscious yearning that connects us to deeper parts of ourselves. It's the yearning for fulfillment, for connection, for purpose, and for meaning. Love begins with a spark, a feeling of attraction, a moment of recognition that something within us is connected to something in another person. It feels natural, easy, even destined. But as the relationship progresses, we begin to see that love is not just about those first moments of joy or infatuation. Love must mature, must be cultivated and nurtured, or it risks becoming a shadow of its potential. Love is not static. It requires ongoing effort, constant adaptation, and sometimes it requires us to release the very things we once thought love meant. We must learn that love isn't just about our own happiness or fulfillment. It is about sacrifice, understanding, and knowing when to stand back and allow the other person to grow. Desire, similarly, is not just about physical attraction. It is an intricate web of emotions, thoughts, needs, and wants. At its core, desire is the longing for connection, for intimacy, for belonging. Yet, desire is not always clear. It can be clouded by fear, insecurities, and misconceptions about what we need or what we think we deserve. Often we desire what we believe will fulfill us, and yet that fulfillment doesn't always come from the things we think we want. Desire, in its purest form, leads us on a journey towards self-discovery, urging us to understand not just who we are, but who we are becoming. The complexity of love and desire is often made apparent when we find ourselves at a crossroads. We might love someone deeply, yet find ourselves conflicted, unsure whether the relationship truly nourishes us or stifles our growth. We might desire their affection, their companionship, but also feel a yearning for something more, something beyond the immediate comforts of love. And in these moments, the complexity of these emotions rises to the surface. It is easy to mistake the feeling of desire for the feeling of love and to confuse love for attachment or possession. But true love, the love that allows both individuals to evolve and flourish, is not about ownership. It is about the freedom to be who we are, and to love someone for who they are, not for who we need them to be. This is why love and desire are so often misunderstood. We are taught to think of love as a destination, a finality. But love is a journey, a process. It's not always the easy path. It demands vulnerability. It asks us to look deeply at ourselves, to confront our own limitations, fears, and insecurities. And it challenges us to become more than we were, to reach beyond what we thought we could achieve, to grow into our highest potential. The desire that drives us to love isn't always about getting something. It's about understanding something deeper, about recognizing that the fullness of love is in the giving, the freedom, and the transformation that happens when we allow ourselves and others to evolve. What often makes this journey so complex is the tension between love and freedom. We might love someone intensely, yet yearn for the freedom to become more, to explore life in ways we never thought possible. The complexity lies in reconciling these two forces, the desire for deep connection and the longing for personal autonomy. True love doesn't trap, it liberates. It doesn't bind us to a set of conditions or expectations. It encourages us to become our true selves, whole, free, and fully realized. As we navigate the complex nature of love and desire, we must remember that love is not an end goal. It is a path that demands us to face our fears, to confront our vulnerabilities, and to open ourselves to the unknown. Desire is not just a longing for things outside of us, but a deep calling to understand and embrace the fullness of who we are. The complexity of love and desire is what makes them so powerful. It is in this complexity that we find the opportunity to truly transform not only ourselves but the relationships that hold so much potential for growth and connection. As we journey through life, we must learn to embrace this complexity, to see it not as a burden, but as a gift. For in embracing the complexity of love and desire, we learn to love not just others, but ourselves. And in doing so, we open the door to a deeper, more fulfilling experience of life. Love and desire are not opposites, they are intricately intertwined, each one feeding the other, creating a powerful force that shapes our lives in ways we may never fully understand. But in embracing their complexity, we become more whole, more authentic, and more capable of experiencing the fullness of life. Personal growth is a concept that cannot be overlooked when it comes to relationships. Too often, we think of relationships solely as a union of two people, and while that is true, it is just one part of the puzzle. What many fail to realize is that the most powerful relationships are not just built on love, compatibility, or shared experiences. They are built on the continual growth and evolution of each individual within the relationship. This means that the role of personal growth in relationships is profound and essential. When we enter into a relationship, we often bring with us all the experiences, habits, beliefs, and expectations we have accumulated over the years. And while we may share many things in common with our partner, the truth is, we are all individuals with our own journeys. If we expect to grow together, we must also recognize that growth is something each of us must engage in independently. For growth is not something that can be given, it must be earned, embraced, and lived through action. And so, the foundation of any meaningful, lasting relationship begins with a commitment to personal growth. But what does personal growth look like in the context of a relationship? It is not just about learning how to communicate better or improving our patience with one another. It goes much deeper than that. Personal growth means understanding who you are, acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses, and constantly striving to become the best version of yourself. It means pushing through fears, challenging your limitations, and confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself, things that we may not always want to face, but which are necessary for true development. In relationships, personal growth challenges us to become more self-aware. It demands that we evaluate how we show up, not just for ourselves, but for the people we love. Growth forces us to ask difficult questions. Am I the person I want to be? Am I showing up in the way my partner deserves? Am I being honest with myself and with them? When we grow personally, we become more equipped to give, to support, and to connect in ways that are meaningful and transformative. Personal growth opens our hearts and minds to seeing our partners in their entirety, accepting them for who they are, while also giving them the space and encouragement to grow. One of the most critical elements of personal growth in relationships is understanding that it is a lifelong process. Growth is not a destination, it is an ongoing journey. There will always be room for improvement, new lessons to learn, and new perspectives to embrace. The key to sustaining a healthy relationship is to never stop evolving. You must recognize that as you change, so too does the relationship. As you grow and become better, you help foster an environment in which your partner can do the same. In fact, when both individuals in a relationship commit to growth, they create an atmosphere of support, understanding, and respect that propels them forward, rather than holding them back. Growth also involves the humility to acknowledge that you don't know everything. We often enter relationships with preconceived notions or beliefs about what love should look like, what the other person should be, or what we expect from the relationship. But as we grow, we begin to understand that relationships are far more complex than our limited vision. They are dynamic and require us to continuously adapt and learn. This means that personal growth also requires vulnerability, the willingness to admit when we are wrong, to listen deeply, and to be open to change. This openness allows us to move forward together, growing in ways that are not only aligned with our values, but also with our partner's values. Ultimately, the role of personal growth in relationships is to transform the relationship itself. A relationship that encourages and supports personal growth is one that allows both individuals to flourish. It creates a foundation of trust, understanding, and love, where both partners are able to live their truth, while also lifting each other up. It is a relationship where growth is celebrated, and the journey of becoming the best version of yourself is not a solitary one, but a shared experience. When we commit to our own personal development, we give ourselves and our partners the opportunity to rise together. And when we rise together, we create something far greater than what we could ever achieve alone. There is a deep, often unspoken tension within us all when it comes to the balance between dependence and freedom. It's a paradox we rarely pause to consider, but it's present in every relationship, every choice, and every interaction we have. On one side, we have dependence. This is the human need for connection, for support, for the presence of others in our lives. It's the foundation of love, of friendship, and of community. It's the recognition that we are not meant to journey through life alone, that we thrive when we are seen, heard, and understood by others. And yet, on the other side, we have freedom, the need to stand on our own, to chart our own course, to be independent and self-reliant, without the shadow of expectation or restraint. It is the desire to explore the vastness of our potential without boundaries or limits. The complexity lies in how these two elements interact. Dependence is often seen as something negative, something that holds us back, chains us to others, and limits our growth. We are taught to strive for independence, to be self-sufficient, to not need anyone or anything. We are told that freedom is the ultimate goal, that to be free is to be whole, to be fulfilled. But the truth is that dependence and freedom are not opposites, they are simply two sides of the same coin. What we must understand is that dependence does not make us weak, it makes us human. And freedom does not mean isolation, it means choice. This conflict between dependence and freedom is especially potent in relationships. When we love, we naturally depend on the other person. We depend on their support, their kindness, their understanding. We place trust in them, and in doing so, we allow ourselves to become vulnerable. But what often happens is that this dependence begins to feel like a weight, something that binds us to someone else, something that limits us in ways we may not even fully recognize. This is where the desire for freedom begins to surface. We begin to feel the need to be our own person, to assert our individuality, to have the space to make our own decisions without the influence of another. It's a difficult thing to reconcile, especially when the very love we desire can feel, at times, like a subtle form of control. We may begin to see dependence not as a bond of love, but as a barrier to our growth, to the person we are becoming. The freedom to explore our potential, to step into the fullness of who we are, can sometimes feel compromised by the ties we have to others. And in this struggle, we may find ourselves torn, unsure of how to move forward. But the key to understanding this dynamic is not to see dependence as the enemy of freedom, nor freedom as the enemy of love. Instead, it is about finding harmony between the two. True freedom is not the absence of connection, it is the ability to choose who we connect with, how we connect, and when we choose to step back and reconnect with ourselves. It is the freedom to be in a relationship, but not to be consumed by it. It is the freedom to grow, to evolve, and to explore who we are without feeling that we have to abandon our connections or reject the love that is offered to us. The challenge lies in cultivating relationships where dependence is not seen as weakness, but as a mutual exchange of trust, care, and support. We need to embrace the fact that dependence and freedom can coexist, that they do not have to be at odds with one another. When we build relationships on a foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and the acknowledgement of each other's individual needs and desires, we find that we are not sacrificing our freedom. Instead, we are enhancing it. We are strengthening our ability to stand tall and walk our own path while also allowing others to walk with us. We must reframe our perception of dependence and freedom. Instead of seeing them as opposing forces, we can recognize that both are necessary for a full, rich life. Dependence, when it is mutual and balanced, provides the foundation for growth, connection, and fulfillment. Freedom, when it is nurtured, allows us to thrive as individuals, to become who we were always meant to be. Both are essential, and both must be embraced. In this delicate balance, we find the true essence of who we are, not bound by the expectations of others, but connected to them in a way that nurtures both our individuality and our shared humanity. Expectations, they are one of the most powerful forces in our lives. They shape our decisions, our relationships, our actions, and yet, most of the time, we don't even realize the weight they place upon us. The unseen burden of expectations can be a silent, insidious force that drains our energy and dims our potential. We often think we are pursuing our dreams, but we are actually pursuing someone else's version of success, someone else's ideals, someone else's expectation of who we should be and what we should do. From the moment we are born, we begin to inherit expectations from our parents, from society, from our peers, and from the world around us. These expectations, often with good intentions, are meant to guide us, to set us on the right path. But what happens when those expectations start to feel like chains, pulling us in every direction except the one we are truly meant to follow? What happens when the weight of what others think we should be doing stifles our own unique journey? There's a deep and pervasive belief in society that we must meet certain milestones to be successful, get the right education, secure a good job, climb the career ladder, build a family, and so on. And with each of these milestones comes a set of expectations. Do it by this age. Do it in this order. Do it in this way. But let's be real for a moment. Life is not linear. Success is not a one-size-fits-all formula. We each walk a different path with our own timeline, our own challenges, and our own desires. And yet we are often led to believe that if we don't meet these societal markers at the right time, if we don't follow the script exactly as it was written for us, we are somehow failing. That burden of expectation, it's not only exhausting, it's suffocating. It creates an inner tension that forces us to live lives that may not be authentic to who we truly are. We spend so much time trying to fulfill others' visions of success that we lose sight of our own. We lose touch with our own passions, our own dreams, and our own calling. This unseen burden doesn't just come from external sources, it also comes from within. We hold ourselves to unrealistic standards, judging ourselves against a benchmark that may never even have been our own. We think we must do more, be more, achieve more, in order to feel worthy. But the truth is, fulfillment and peace come from within, from understanding and embracing who we are, not from meeting the external expectations of others. What we fail to realize is that when we live our lives according to someone else's script, we are surrendering our power, the power to choose, the power to create, the power to innovate, and the power to be authentic. We are giving away our freedom in exchange for a fleeting sense of approval, a sense of acceptance that is often conditional. And when we do this, we risk losing the most important part of ourselves, our true essence. Now, I'm not saying that we should reject all forms of guidance or all expectations. There is wisdom in learning from others, in listening to mentors, in understanding the paths of those who have come before us. But it's vital to understand that your path is yours and yours alone. The only expectations that truly matter are the ones you set for yourself. The only measurements that count are the ones you decide are important. Your timeline doesn't need to align with anyone else's. Your goals don't need to fit into anyone's box. You are a unique creation with a unique purpose. It's time to shed the weight of expectations. It's time to stop living in response to the world's demands and start living in alignment with your own vision. You must let go of the belief that you must live up to anyone's standards but your own. It's time to give yourself permission to succeed in your own way, in your own time. Embrace the freedom that comes with releasing the burden of trying to meet others' expectations and allow yourself the space to explore your own potential. Because when we break free from the chains of these unspoken demands, we unlock a power within us that is limitless. When we stop trying to fit into someone else's mold, we begin to create a life that is authentically ours, a life that is rich with purpose, fulfillment, and meaning. The unseen burden of expectations no longer has the power to control us when we begin to live in our truth. The world will try to impose its standards on you, but you don't have to accept them. You have the power to chart your own course, to define your own success, and to live life on your own terms. It is time to stop living under the shadow of others' expectations. Instead, it's time to live fully in the light of your own truth, to walk confidently toward the life that you were meant to create. In conclusion, the unseen burden of expectations can be a powerful force that holds us back from our true potential. But today we must understand that we have the power to release that burden. The path you walk, the life you build, is yours to create. You do not need to live according to anyone else's script or timeline. Your purpose is unique, and it will unfold in its own time, in its own way, when you give yourself the freedom to live authentically. Let go of the weight of others' expectations and embrace the power of your own choices. Trust in your journey, believe in your abilities, and know that you are worthy of success on your own terms. When you step into your truth, you become unstoppable. The world will try to define you, but only you can define your life. Take back your power, live for yourself, and let go of what was never meant for you in the first place. This is your life to live, and it's time to live it fully, free from the unseen burden of expectations.